Hey, what's up, Rangers? It's Daddy Louie. If you are not familiar with me, I am a member of the Circle of Nerds. You can find most of my content over on YouTube at youtube.com/Circle of Nerds. I mostly do unboxings, game reviews. I have some painting tutorials and things like that. Power Rangers is among many, many games that we take a look at that we love and appreciate over there at the Circle of Nerds. We also have a podcast comes out on Wednesdays and a live show that happens every Friday night at 8:30 on our Facebook account. So definitely check us out. Huge shout out, as always, to Renegade for having me on the stream. In case you didn't notice from the little loading screen, I guess you can call it, today we are painting the Magna Defender. Unfortunately, I was going to paint Ninjor. I was very, very excited about painting Ninjor, and my dog had other plans. She jumped up on the dining room table after I had washed him and decided that she didn't like his head or something, because now it is all chewed and gnawed up. So instead, today we are painting the Magna Defender, which we will go down to the table and take a look at. First, let's take a moment of silence for poor Ninjor, who is just... He's seen better days, hasn't he? Poor guy. All right, well, instead we are going to take a look at the Magna Defender. So this guy, I went ahead and washed him with soap and water, as always, and then I gave him a... let's make that a little clearer. Then I gave him a prime coat of Gray Sear from GW. And the reason that I decided to go with that is because we are going to be using some contrast paints today. We did a really nice job last week on the Gold Ranger using contrast paints. You see him there. He looks really nice. So this week we are going to be exploring some more of those contrast paints. So while that's drying, we will take a look at his cards and stuff like that. Let me turn these lights up so we can get a little more, there we go, a little more light on the table. Cool. So I really like this model a lot. We may not be able to finish him in one stream, mostly because he has this really large cape, and we want to do it justice. And he also has a lot of really intricate details of gold on his sword here and up here in the hilt and stuff like that. Now, the color of the chest piece and the diamond, so there's three places where that glowing bit is. He's got a big spot right here on his chest. That's the primary one. He's got one on top of his helmet, and then he has another one in his sword. Now, if we look at the artwork on the cards, some of the cards, it looks very blue, right? One of the cards, I think it's this one, it looks very green to me. And then if you look at his screenshots on Google, let's see if I can pull these up here and show you. Some of them, it looks blue, and that on screen I can see it looks blue, but on my screen it looks very green. So why am I telling you this? Because I had to decide what color I wanted to use, and I've decided to go with P3's Eldritch. It is a teal color. On screen, it looks more blue. In person, it looks more green. So that's what we're going to use for those bits, and we'll try and make it look all glowing and stuff like that. But first and foremost, we need to get the contrast paints on. So we're going to use two contrast paints. We're going to use Black Templar and Blood Angel's Red. The red will be for the cape. That's just to get a really nice solid red on to get started. And then the Black Templar will be for all of the armor. And then while that's drying, we will look at the cards. We'll have a little chat, and then we'll come back and start doing some highlights. So first, I think I'm going to do the cape first, just because it's a little more controlled of an area, especially around the back. But we can get a little messy because no one's going to see the back anyway once it's on the table. So like I said, we're going to be using Contrast Blood Angels Red. And we're going to give it a good shake and just go straight from the pot using just a regular shading brush. You can use any kind of brush for this. It's really not a big deal. And we want to keep it as far away from our elbows as possible. We don't want to tip that over. So I hope that everyone is having a great Monday. Hope they're having a better Monday than me. Very sad to lose Ninjor to the dog's bowl. Not the dog's bowl, but man, she just it was 5 minutes. I didn't even leave him there for that long. I was really bummed. If you remember, if you've been watching me since my very first stream, Ninjor was actually the character from the Ally pack I was most excited about. I was going to save him for last, and the reason that I had decided to paint him today instead of last was because of just how long I knew Magna Defender was going to take. So I figured I'd save the longest one for last. So I got him all ready, and my dog had other plans. She's a little Chihuahua. She's mostly still a puppy. She's just over a year old. But she usually doesn't chew stuff up anymore. I guess today she was just in a chewing mood. Big bummer. Ninjor was my favorite from that pack, so I'm gonna have to try and find another Ninjor somewhere. One of the main reasons that we're going with Contrast for the cape to get started is just because of how quick it is. I love how quick and easy throwing contrast paints on is. Magna Defender is from Lost Galaxies, I believe. I am mostly familiar with him from the comics and the video games. Not so much the show. Lost Galaxies was not one of the shows that I watched. But I'm very familiar with him, like I said, from the comics and from the video games. I think it was, is it Battle for the Grid that is the newest fighting game? Magna Defender is actually one of my favorite characters to use in that video game. Just make sure that we get a nice coat. I'm not thinning it or anything. Like I said, just straight pot. Straight from the pot to the model. And then I'm going to be a little carefuler as I get closer to the armor on the underneath. It's going to be hard for you guys to see. It's hard for me to see. Because it's a very tight area back there. And that's it. All of the red is done. Like I said, we're just going to let that dry. But in the meantime, we can start putting the black on the armor. Did everybody have a good weekend? I hope everybody was able to get some look at some of the Gen Con stuff. Renegade had some really nice Gen Con announcements and some teases. They had a lot of cool game demos as well via Tabletopia, which is really cool. And Yeah, there was quite a few big announcements from some other companies, and it seemed to work out really well as far as, you know, it being virtual for the first time. So now we're going to switch over to Contrast Black Templar. This is going to go all over the, basically everywhere except for the blade of the sword. Because even most of the hilt is black. Which is cool. Like I said, Magna Defender is quite the cool character. Just want to get this all over the model. If you don't own any contrast paints, that's completely okay. My suggestion would be to prime the model in black or a very, very dark gray. That's going to help you out the most with getting the model done. I can hear my dogs going crazy upstairs. I don't know if you guys can hear that on stream. Hopefully you can't. They're going nuts. Must be somebody at the door. If you are interested in getting started with contrast paints, I don't recommend just going out and getting every single color, because there are a lot of colors that are very similar in shade, and there's some colors that have little to no use for everyday use. I would start with your primary colors. Get yourself a yellow, a blue, a red, and oops, I just accidentally mixed some red and black together. Black is the one that I use the most. Matter of fact, this bottle is probably pretty low. It's probably almost done. But this allows us, using a contrast paint allows us to do both a base coat of a color and a shade all with one step. So that's why we love contrast paints. And they're quite easy to highlight. And it's really nice for big models like this, because it's going to help you to be able to finish the model just a little bit quicker. And I'm being quite sloppy with it. I'm not, you don't have to be... You don't have to be nice and gentle with it. You can just slop it on there. The only places that I want to be careful is when I get close to that red. On the back and underneath this cape, I'm less worried about it. In the front, I do want to be very careful. Like I wasn't just a second ago when you saw me mix the colors together. Did anybody get to play Power Rangers this weekend? I hope that you did. My play group is still completely shut down for COVID, so no Power Ranger playing for me. But hopefully soon. Hopefully COVID won't plague us for too much longer. All right, like I said, we're going to leave the blade, mostly white for now, or gray, just because it's primarily silver. Almost there. And then we will let it dry. Oh, I got way too much in my brush there. Then we'll let it dry, and we will come back and look at the cards. See how he plays. I took a little glance at them before I went live, and he hits really, really hard. He's definitely a very heavy damage dealer, which is really cool. Feels thematic for him. And he's just such a big model that, like I said, it seems very fitting. I do have a little bit of red where I don't want it. But unfortunately, I'm just going to have to let it dry and then fix it in post. You can leave the horns gray as well to the helmet, because they're going to be just pure gold. All right, and a little bit right there. All right, and that is all of the contrast. You can see down here it's already starting to dry, and it looks really good. So we're going to set him aside for a moment and wash our brush. I'm not really happy with the lighting situation here. We're gonna flip this to our white lights and turn them all the way up. So I'm gonna be kind of whited out, but you care less about what I look like and more about what he looks like. So there we go. Now we've got more light. All right. Let's take a look at his cards. All right, so here we are. The Magna Defender. He's the Avenging Knight. His ability says, once per battle, after an enemy card deals damage to you, deal 1 damage to that enemy card. So he's dealing damage even when he's taking damage, which, like I said, he seems to me like he's a heavy hitter, and this just kind of goes with that. We'll save his big cards for last. So he has a Magna Defense, costs 0. It is a reaction. Play this card when any ranger suffers damage to reduce that damage by 2. If there is a card named Magna Defense in the discard pile, reduce that damage by 4 instead. And you'll see this kind of throughout his cards. When he has a certain card in the discard pile, he kind of gets like some bonuses and stuff like that. So basically, the first time that you play this, you're going to reduce the damage by 2. The next time that you play it, you're going to reduce it by 4. And if you have something that helps you discard cards, you might get 4 the first time you play it as well. And there's 2 of those in the deck. Next, you have Noble Blow, 0 cost, 2 dice attack. If there's a card named Noble Blow in your discard, you also gain 2 energy, which is crazy. So again, there's 2 of these. So the first time you play it, it's a 2 dice attack. The second time you play it, it's a 2 dice attack, and you gain 2 energy, which is really strong. Sacrifice is another 0 cost. This is a maneuver. Discard the top card of your deck. Up to 2 other rangers in your location may each choose 1 card from their discard pile and add it to their hand or place it on top of their deck. Yeah, so this is, again, this isn't like his other cards, so it's not reliant on cards being in your discard. But you can see, because you're discarding the top card of your deck, you could be feeding your discard pile for some of these other cards, like I just explained. Valiant Charge, it is a 1 cost 2 dice attack. If there's a card named Valiant Charge in the discard pile, add 2 dice to this attack. So again, first time you play it, it's a 2 dice attack. Second time you play it, it's 4 dice attack, which is super strong. Magna Blaster, it is a 2 dice attack. You can divide the damage from this attack among any number of targets. If there's a card named Magna Blade in your discard, it is a 4 dice attack. And that leads us to the Magna Blade itself. It's a 5 dice attack. It ignores guard, which is amazing. And if there is a card named Magna Blaster, you can reroll any of the dice during the attack. And I believe there's 2 Magna Blasters in the deck, if I'm not mistaken. So you can play 1 and then play the Magna Blade and then play the second Magna Blaster, and you're getting crazy, crazy, crazy damage. Everything in his deck, with the exception of that one sacrifice card, is all damage. Well, I guess the defense isn't either. So I think there's only 1 sacrifice and there's 2 Magna defenses, if I'm not mistaken. So basically 7 of the 10 cards in your deck are going to deal damage, and anytime you take damage, you're going to deal damage back. So if you're looking for a damage-dealing character to add to your team, Magna Defender is it. He defends well with that Magna defense, because he can suck up a lot of damage, but mostly he is there to really just hit the enemy cards really, really hard. So really cool, really thematic. Like I said, I like him a lot. R.I.P. Another moment of silence for poor Ninjor. He has seen, let's zoom in here. He has just seen better days. Poor guy. Ugh, I feel so bad. Stinking dog, man. Oof. All right, so let's take a look at how we're doing with our Magna Defender. He's still pretty wet, so we want to give him another few seconds to dry here. Now, the red on this cape, if you wanted to leave it like that, you could. It's kind of streaky as it's drying. You can see kind of some streaks there. I'm going to fix that by painting over it. You don't have to. It's certainly not required, but that is something that I'm going to do. Right now, I'm just looking over the model, making sure that there are no empty gray spots where I missed the black. He looks pretty good. I did get some red and black mixed together up here underneath his. You can barely see it on screen, but I can see it. And we can fix that. That's not a big deal. Or you can just leave it. It's up to you. Silver is going to be the next color that we're going to use. We're going to use Lead Belcher. And this is going to be to add all the silver trim to his armor and to color in the blade. We're going to do that so that we can get to the gold next. Right now we're just looking for base colors. I'm trying to look through his cards here to see if I can find where there is silver. Looks like he definitely has some silver on his knee pads. So yep, looking at, when in doubt, look at toys, look at screenshots from video games. It really helps to see, especially if you can't. This is from, I believe this is a comic book right here. So I'm just looking for where we can see some of this. That's a toy. I almost thought that was cosplay. I was like, oh man, that's really cool cosplay. Yeah, so he's silver trim around the armor pieces of the legs and silver on the boots. And it looks like silver trim all over. So basically all of his armor bits on his arms and his legs are all silver. Here's an actual screenshot from the show. So that's what we're gonna go for. So first, let's start with the blade. So we're gonna use lead belcher for this. It's kind of our go-to for silver. I'm going to put it on my palette just because there's so much. Normally I wouldn't put metallics on my palette just because I don't want them to be too watered down. But since there is so much metallic here, I don't want it to dry, so... There's a lot of black paint right here from the contrast. So I'm going to stop, clean off my brush, get my the shade brush. And my shade brush is pretty much dry now and it's clean. So I'm just going to touch it lightly in those pooling spots and soak up some of that paint so that it'll dry faster so I can paint over it. Doesn't look like there's any on the other side, so that's good. Normally I would have done that in the last step, but I just kind of put the model down and went straight to the cards. And I just want to get silver all over. All these details are going to be gold once we get to it. And I'll show you how to do that. You can either dry brush or you can do like an edge highlight. We're going to do an edge highlight to get the gold to pop out. This step will probably be the longest because it's really fine trim all over the model pretty much of the silver. So this will probably be the longest step. So bear with me, we'll make it through together. Chat is very quiet today. Okay. You see I got all the silver on the back side. Let's go back to the front. See if that area up top here is dry enough to take some paint. Looks like it is, so that's good. Alright, so the blade is all nice and silver. And we can start in on some of the details of the armor as it dries, because we're not going to do all of it in silver. So we want to get these little, I keep wanting to call them diamonds, but I know it's not a diamond. What is a six-sided object? Can't think. An octagon? No, that's 8. Yeah, the cape does look pretty nice. Like I said, it's kind of hard to see, but it is kind of streaky. You can see like the streaks and stuff. But we'll fix all of that once we go over it with paint. But you don't have to. You know, the purpose of contrast paints is for even beginners to just put some basic colors on models. It will put a base coat and some shade on for you, and you're ready to rock. You don't have to do any of the extra highlighting or anything like that. You know, we are not pro painters here. We are just trying to make our model look nice for the table. So if you want to stop at that step, by all means, please do. I'm just going to go a little bit further just because, well, because I can. These are some really, really thin lines, so I'm just being kind of careful. I can't be too careful because then I'll like hold my breath and pass out, and that won't be good for anybody. But you know, you just want to take your time doing this silver trim here. Might want to switch to a finer brush than what I'm using. I'm using a number 1. A number 0 would probably be better. But I just feel more comfortable with the 1. So that's what I'm using. And we're just being careful. There's all these, so he has a bunch of lines on his armor. Let me see if I can zoom in here and focus the camera. Let's see. So you see, like, looking at his quad armor here, see this line that goes up along his, that's the part that's silver. See, like that. So those are the fine details that you're working towards. And like I said, this will probably be the longest step. But it will be worth it in the end. Let's see, what did I do this weekend? Let's talk about the weekend. I unfortunately didn't get much, as much Gen Con time as I would have wanted. I was following announcements and stuff like that, but that's really about it. I didn't get to play any games or anything like that. My mother is visiting this week, so we've been doing stuff around the house to get ready for her visit. And my son, who is 16, he had his first job interview today, and they gave him a job, so he's going to be doing some little things at a local grocery store, so it's fun. So we're kind of helping him get ready for that. It's always exciting when you get your first job. So I'm just finishing up the leg part of the of that trim. You can be as thorough as you want. I'm not being super thorough because there is a lot of trim to do. So And I'm sure it's not like super entertaining to watch all that trim. So we may come back to it a little later to finish it up. Yep, so we're just being super careful. I don't want to get any silver on the black that shouldn't be there. If you do, it's not terribly difficult to fix. So there's the trim. This kneecap here is significantly closer to the trim than this one over here. So you see this nice big, dark gap between the kneecap and the armor, and then over here you don't. So to fix that, we're just going to get all the silver off of our paintbrush. And then we're going to go back to our contrast paint. So our Black Templar contrast paint. And using actually, you know what? We're going to use the 0. We'll use the 0 size paintbrush because we just want a little bit of paint, a little bit of the contrast paint. You don't want a lot. This paintbrush is like hard as a rock. Guess I haven't used it in a while. So you just want to get a little bit of that on there, like that, and then just put the contrast paint back in the gap that you want. And then when that dries, it'll look like the shadow that you want. There, see that difference? That's a big difference. I think we're actually going to keep using this brush. I liked that. Yep. So let's see, where other... I feel like we missed a lot of trim. I guess we didn't miss a lot, just a little bit. So back to our silver. All right. And I think I missed some in the back of this other leg. Oh, I remembered why I stopped using this brush. It's because the tip doesn't stay together. Look at that. It's hard to see, but this is when you know it's time for you to replace your brush. See that? It's terrible. And this brush isn't that old, which is kind of annoying. But yeah. Let's see. Maybe I'm using the wrong number 0. I've got another one over here. That one looks even worse. Look at that. It's like not flat at all. So I'm going to put those aside so I remember that I need to get a new one. I have another 0 over here. Let's look at this one. And that one's bad too. All my 0s are failing me today. All right, back to the 1. So that's all the legs done. I may come back later to do some more, but it's kind of given me some nice edge already, and I want to start working a little bit on the cape. So for that, I think we'll go with Mephiston Red to start. Like I've said before, it's kind of the universal go-to red. Or should I go with corn red? Let's see. We can experiment with our reds a little bit here and see which red looks better. So we'll put a little bit of that on our palette. Let's get some corn red. I really need to organize my paints a little better. I can tell you right now, I definitely don't like the corn red for this, so we're just going to stick with the Mephiston red for now. So let's get a little bit of paint on our paintbrush. And so the object here is just to smooth out the flat surfaces. So here where it was all streaky, we're just looking to put paint on those streaks. Just to smooth it out. We want to stay away from the recesses where it was nice and dark. Need a little more water. For something like this, you want to make sure that your paints are nice and wet. So they create like a really nice, smooth looking color. And I'm really glad that I chose this red because it matches really nicely. When it comes to those contrast paints, when you highlight them or when you do what I'm doing, you really just, the goal is just to match the color as best you can. Did I do anything for Gen Con? Sadly, I really didn't. I did kind of pay attention to some of the announcements that were coming through, and I read that a lot of people had a lot of fun, and I'm very happy that Gen Con could still be done in some way, because I think that it's really needed and appreciated right now, especially with the world and the condition that it's in. But I had a pretty busy family weekend, so I didn't really have not a lot of personal time, unfortunately. But I heard really good things, like I said, from a lot of people, that Gen Con was a huge success, even done virtually. So I'm happy. I'm glad that the community and especially the developers like Renegade and all these other companies were able to come together and do something for the community that was really needed. So you can see there, I'm just being careful in those spots where the flat surfaces isn't huge, because I just want to get paint on some of the area, but not all of it. And you can see down here where it's dried how much smoother that looks than it did with just the contrast paint. And that's mostly because, like I said, you want to make sure that your paints are nice and wet when you do this. All right. Let's just take another quick look. Maybe a little more water. Okay. I'm not going to worry too much about the backside. I'll hit it real quick, but you're not gonna want to spend a ton of time on the shadowing and stuff on the back because A, from the table you're not going to see it, and B, there would naturally be more shadows underneath. As a matter of fact, I think I might just leave it completely. Looking at it head on, you guys can't really see it, but I kind of like all those shadows, and there's little specks of black that came from when I was doing the black armor. So I kind of like it like that. So we're just going to keep working on this top part up here. I do want to get, let's see, what part of that would be. I think his collar right here is going to be black and not red. So I just want to be careful with that. All right. Sorry, my brush was really dirty. So now for the rest of the cape, we want to keep going into brighter colors. So we want Evil Sun Scarlet next. I really need like a paint tray, like something to go up here by my desk so that when I need a color, I can just pull it out. I've seen different people have stuff like that, and I do not. I have all my colors organized kind of weird. I've got all of my shades and my contrast paints in a like a makeup holder, and then I've got all of my like neutral colors, my browns, my grays, blacks, and my metallics in one bin, and then I've got my colors in another bin. So it's just a big giant mess. And this paint is not coming out of this pot, and I don't know why. There is a secret that I will share with you, if I even have it. Oh, look at that. I don't even have one. There's, you can take a pin. Oh, there's one. Not a pin, a paper clip. Let me show you. So my paint's dried up here on top, so the paint's not coming out. So you just take an old paper clip and you just stick it in the eye of the dropper. And then save it, because this will happen to you. So I just keep mine in my little tray, and then you can see the paint's already starting to come out the top. All right. All right, so now we're mostly going to be focusing on the parts that are raised the most. And we want to make sure, again, that our paint is real wet. So this isn't really wet blending, because I don't know how to do that very well. So you see what I'm doing? I just want to make sure that the red is not completely drowning, or this shade of red is not completely drowning the last shade of red. And the effect won't be as apparent until you let them dry. And there's still one more layer after this. So you might be looking, saying, well, wow, that doesn't really look that great. But I promise once the paint dries and the last layer is on, you'll be able to really see it. And if at any time when you're painting, you get paint in a recess that you don't want the paint to be in, like I just did right there, you can barely see it on camera, but I can see it in person. I'll show you how to fix that too. cool. Oh boy, I feel a Daddy Louie dance party. I need that. I need that emoji. I'm gonna make one. So on these big surfaces, that's where you want to get a lot of this paint color. Because that's where it would be brightest. The red would be brightest. And I realize I'm taking a lot of time on this cape, but it's really a focal point of the model, and you're going to want it to look as nice as possible. Just like when we get to the emblem on his chest, we're going to want to take a lot of time on that too. I almost said, hey, Renegade, since you're the only one talking to me in the chat, what did you do for Gen Con? But I know what you did. You guys were really busy. You know what this guy's cape reminds me of? It reminds me of, like, the 90s, like, Spawn toys. Did anybody ever have those, like, 1990s, like, style Spawn toys where, like, Spawn had, like, the really huge plastic flowing cape? I'll pull up a picture in a minute. We'll take a water break, and I'll show you all what I mean. That's what his cape reminds me of, that really classic 90s style Spawn cape. All right. I'm really happy with how that looks right now. You can see the highlights. You can see the shade really well. It looks really cool. So let's take a water break. Stretch out the arms. Let's see if I can find a picture of the 90s Spawn figure. Here we go. This is exactly the guy. I used to have this action figure, and you'll see like see the big like plastic cape. That's what the Magna Defender figure reminds me of. See this big flowing red plastic cape? Looks just like that, right? That's what I was thinking of when I was I was painting that. But ours looks better because we have nice shades and highlights on there, and those old school figures are just flat red. So next we're going to go with an extreme highlight of actually this. We may actually do one more extreme highlight, so we'll call this the highlight to the highlight. Wild Rider Red. This is borderline orange, depending on your how you perceive colors. It may be orange to your eyes. To me it's red, but I've had some friends say no, 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 that's definitely orange. And we're going to use this for the sharp edges of the cape to really highlight it out. So we don't necessarily need to water it down. It's a pretty watery color, but we do want to make sure that that we don't have a lot of paint on our paintbrush. And you just want to turn your paintbrush sideways and run it along the edges. Stretching is important. Now for the top here, you're just going to want thin lines, as thin as you can make them. Again, just to do and if you get them too thick, like I just did, you can go back, not a problem, to either your base color or probably your base color. And you don't want to overdo it. Because you don't want it to be orange, right? You just want it to be a highlight of the red. So I'm just putting it like in the most predominant areas. Might blend that a little bit. But that's really it. You just wanted to do it in a few spots. And that's our cape. Looks really nice. Yep, looks really nice. So now we want to look at the front here. Let's see what we want to do. So we could keep doing silver, because we do still have a lot of silver to go. So let's do a little bit more silver before we decide to move on to the... You know what? Actually, let's go ahead and do our symbols, like the icon that's on his chest. Like I said, we're using P3 Eldritch is the color. It's kind of like a teal color. For some reason on camera it looks completely blue. That does not look teal at all. And the reason that I'm going to do this now is because I want it to dry real well, and because we may do like some highlighting and stuff with it later. This is almost like the perfect color for his chest piece. I was really racking my brain forever trying to figure out what color I was going to do. And then I remembered I had this color from another project. It's really a light color, so it's going to need multiple coats. And I don't have too many P3 paints, so it's kind of funny that I had this one. And I did order, I did spoil myself and get a bunch of secret weapon paints, or not secret weapon, scale 75 paints. So those will be coming hopefully soon-ish. And then we'll really get crazy with some of our colors. Don't forget there's also a symbol on the back of the sword as well. And as far as I know, those are the only 3 places that are this color, so... And the center chest piece area is dry already, so I'm going to go ahead and throw another coat on there because it's pretty translucent. Yeah, that looks really... I like the color of it a lot. Alright, we'll let that dry. The center chest piece area is going to need more paint. It's just really translucent right now. Hey, AJ, thanks for joining. Glad to see you. Yeah, he's looking pretty good so far. Really happy. We just finished the cape. We were talking about how the cape looks very 1990s Spawn. 1990s like Spawn toys. And we did a little bit of the silver trim earlier, but we got a little tired of doing silver trim, so we decided that we decided that we were going to take a break from silver. But now we're going to go back to it. So let's see. Let's see if my silver from earlier is still an okay consistency. Let's look at our photo again of what this guy, where the armor is silver. So it looks like the belt has silver, the chest, and the arms. All right. This center piece right here is all gold. So this is all gold here, and on the shoulders is gold. But this bit right here is silver. And then the outside of the belt is silver. Yeah, that looks good. How was your weekend, AJ? I know last week you said you were working a lot and hadn't gotten much sleep. I hope you're caught up on some sleep. Right now you can't see it. I'm just getting the silver trim on the belt underneath the cape. But the cape is kind of blocking your view. Sorry about that. And then he has a bunch of silver trim up here on his chest piece. Work sucked last weekend. I need to work for a while. So, well, that's good because you've been working like crazy. Sounds like you could use a vacation. I wonder where in the world you could go on vacation. So that's the silver bit right there on his chest. I need to take a look at the picture again because I'm not sure about the outline of. Okay, so that's silver too. So the outline around the symbol on his chest is also silver. So don't forget that if you're following along or you're watching this to paint. Well, good for you guys. Sounds like you both could use a vacation. I mean, you were supposed to be off this week anyway, you know. Hell, all of us were supposed to be off this weekend. I'm supposed to be flying to Vegas in 2 days. Dang COVID. two huge things canceled that were supposed to happen this week/weekend. I was supposed to go to Vegas to see my buddy get married at a Star Trek convention. And then if that fell through, also this weekend was supposed to be Boston Comic-Con, which also got canceled. Last year I worked at Boston Comic-Con, and I got to meet some cool celebrities, including Jason David Frank. And this weekend it got canceled. Just like everything else. So I keep adding paint to this center area because it doesn't look like it on screen, but in person it's just a very transparent color. So I want it to be completely covered up. So back to my silver. Yeah, to anybody who's watching, if you ever get the opportunity to go to a convention and Jason David Frank is there doing like autographs and pictures and stuff, highly, highly, highly recommend that you check him out. Because he's just so nice. And he really loves Power Rangers, and he loves what Power Rangers has done for him. He's really embraced the fandom, and he's just super down to earth, and I like him a lot. Highly recommend. You stand in line, get an autograph, maybe a picture, whatever you can afford. And you can't afford anything, just stand in line just to say hi. Because he'll, even if you're not buying anything or meeting him, he'll talk to you, which is super cool. I believe he lives down in Texas. I follow him on social media. And recently, because of COVID, all of his appearances and stuff have been canceled at cons. So what he's been doing is he's been going out of his way to contact local comic book stores that are struggling because of the pandemic. And he's been, reaching out to them to set up meet and greets. Obviously, they're socially distanced and all that other stuff. And he takes some of the proceeds, what he makes off of, autographs and photos and stuff, and just donates that directly to those stores. So not only are those stores making money because people are coming in and buying stuff, but they're also making money because he's just literally donating some of what he makes to those stores, which is crazy because normally when you have a celebrity like that make an appearance, you have to pay for that appearance. I didn't actually know that. So last year when I was working at the Boston Comic-Con, we got to see a lot of celebrities. Didn't necessarily meet them, but we got to see them from a distance. My wife and I were working the photo booth, so we got to see a lot of celebrities. And we were talking to the lady who travels with the company to do the photos and stuff like that. And she said that all of those celebrities have a cap. They have to make a certain amount of money in autographs and in photos. And if they don't meet their cap, then the venues have to pay them. So if you're the company that's putting on the Comic-Con, let's say I'm really going to use some very vague numbers. Let's say I'm a celebrity, right? And I say my cap is, I have to make $10,000. If I don't make $10,000, let's say I make $8,000 off of autographs and stuff, then you, as the person who's hosting or putting on the convention, you have to pay me the other, what did I say, 10,000? I only made 8,000, so you'd have to pay me the other $2,000 so that I make what it is that I came out there to make. Now, most of the time, they make well over their cap. Especially if it's a celebrity that everybody's just crazy for. They got to meet. But I'd imagine that there's been times where that's not the case. So, anyway, back to my story. Jason David Frank is contacting local comic book stores that are within driving distance to where he lives down there in Texas. Not exactly sure where in Texas, but if you're from Texas and you're watching this, go on Facebook, follow Jason David Frank, and he always posts his schedule. He's also on Cameo, so you can pay to have shout-outs, and he does a bunch of those for free and for charity and stuff like that too. So, really cool guy. I can't speak for any of the other celebrities, Power Ranger celebrities, but I know that Jason David Frank he's one of the good ones. So I was really happy to meet him. I got a comic book autographed, and I got my picture taken with him. And one of the workers who was working his line, because I was working, he let me jump in front of the line, which was super cool. And he also had some props. So he had a morpher and the little dragon flute. The worker guy did. And he let me and Jason David Frank use that stuff, which was really cool. So I'm just looking at a picture real quick to see what needs to be painted still. So we have the trim on his helmet needs to be silver, and it looks like his wrists need to be silver as well. So he's got an arrow thing on the top of his head. We'll paint that silver around the visor and the mouthpiece. Okay. So it looks like these wristbands are also silver, so we'll make sure we get those. I don't even know who was supposed to be coming to Boston this year. The only ones that I know for sure were coming, they were having a Hobbit reunion, so all 4 of the actors that played the Hobbits in the Lord of the Rings movies were going to be here. And the only reason that I know that is because I had a friend who was literally going to be flying in from Italy to see them, because she's a big Lord of the Rings fans. So hopefully they'll be able to get all of those folks again next year. Because there were a lot of people looking forward to seeing certain people, I'm sure. The other big one for us last year was we got to meet the entire primary cast of Boy Meets World. So we got to meet Corey, Sean, Eric, Topanga, and Mr. Feeney, which was amazing experience. And prior to doing that, I always kind of, not made fun of, but I always kind of wondered why people would pay so much money to get an autograph or a picture with a celebrity. But then when you're given the opportunity to meet somebody that literally changed you, I guess, or helped mold the person that you are because you watched them on TV, or they were just a big part of your growing up, your childhood, you're yeah, it doesn't matter how much, here, take all my money, it's all good. But we literally saw people who were getting photos with every single celebrity. And I mean, we're talking about 100 different celebrities, or close to that anyway. They didn't care. they were getting, I'm going to paint this whole thing silver, and then just paint the black bits black again in a second, because it'd just be easier. But they were literally getting every single picture and autograph. Like, you'd see them come out the line, because where we were working, we were like in charge of framing. So somebody would go in, get their picture taken with a celebrity, and then they would come out. Their picture would be printed, and then we were in a booth right next to where the pictures were printed out. So if you wanted to get a frame, you could come to us, make a donation or whatever, and we would put your picture in a frame. So we got to see all the celebrities as they like walked by us to go to their booth, and then we got to see everybody's pictures as they were coming out from getting photos. And I mean, there were people crying. They were like so happy. Like John Travolta was there, and there was like, you know, all these older ladies who were just like flipping out and stuff like that. It was really kind of funny. And but there were some people who would like, you would see them, and then 5 minutes later you'd see them again, because like they'd be in line, they'd get a picture, and then they'd turn around and they'd go get in a different line to get a different picture. And all weekend long for 3-4 days, we just saw those same people come out, and they'd have binders like with all the pictures that they've taken. It's almost like they didn't necessarily care who the celebrity was. They were just trying to get a picture taken with a celebrity. And that's what they did. They collected pictures with celebrities. It was kind of nuts. And I mean, these pictures weren't cheap at all. Like for us, I don't want to give you an exact amount, but for us to get a picture taken with the Boy Meets World cast, it was over $200. So imagine like if you're getting your picture taken with 50, 60 celebrities in an entire weekend, and some of them are upwards of like $100 per picture. Like I think John Travolta was like $150 or something like that. I'm pretty sure he was the most expensive of the weekend. But can you imagine? Like, it's crazy to me. Which is not to say that you people are crazy. If you do that, cool. I don't have that kind of money. So that's all the silver trim. He's looking really cool. So now we have to dive into the gold. We have a lot of gold and a lot of gold trim. So we're going to go ahead and I still think that cape turned out so good. Man, that's really cool. All right. So let's flip my palette around here so I can get some gold. Oh man, I got some excess water. Let's clean that up real quick. So I guess let me ask the chat. There's a couple people in chat right now. Have you ever paid to meet a celebrity before? And if so, which one? I'm curious. Or maybe you got to meet a celebrity for free. Maybe you didn't have to pay. I've met celebrities for free before. I guess I've never met like a major celebrity for free, but I've met like some minor celebrities, I guess. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so Fan Expo is actually what the Boston, what they're the ones who do Boston Comic Con now. So when I said that I did mine last year, it was also at a Fan Expo. It was Fan Expo Boston. I just still call it Boston Comic Con because a lot of people are like, "What in the heck is Fan Expo?" If you've never like been to Fan Expo, you don't necessarily know what it is. But that's awesome. Another cool celebrity Nice. You got the autograph too. Yeah, we didn't. We were gonna get autographs of the Boy Meets World cast, but by the time we ended up getting like the pictures, it was just we had already paid so much money for the pictures. But I definitely wanted to do to get Jason David Frank's picture and autograph. But for him, like I did all of that. Like I didn't do like the whole like professional picture. I just did like picture with the cell phone from his booth. Um, Again, mostly because we had just spent so much money on the Boy Meets World thing. I think they were charging like $50 an autograph or something like that. Oh, he's Robert Picardo. Ooh, that's cool. All right, so there's gold trim on his helmet. This is gonna be one of those like hold your breath, don't screw up. So wish me luck here, because this is whew, it's a very thin trim, and my hands are super shaky. Okay. Whew. Yeah, that would have been awesome. So there's his gold trim over his little helmet there. And I realize I missed some silver bits. I'm going to get them real quick. The silver bits that I missed were around the collar here. When I lived in Germany, um, I attended this event at a place called Legoland, which is basically like a Lego Six Flags. And it was Star Wars weekend, and every year at Star Wars weekend, they had a celebrity come out. And I was one of the volunteers for the event. And tradition was that if they could, the night before the event, they would have like a dinner with the celebrity and all of the volunteers. So the year that I went and volunteered, the celebrity was Daniel Logan. Daniel Logan plays young Boba Fett in um, episode 2. And he also does the voice of Boba Fett in the Clone Wars cartoon. So he was the celebrity at the dinner. So we're sitting at dinner, and he shows up, and of course everybody flips out, and everybody goes, runs over, gets their autographs, their pictures. It takes about half hour to get through everybody, and later on, I look over, and he's sitting by himself basically, and his dad was with him. He was still like a teenager-ish young man, and I think his dad was his manager. And he's just sitting there, not talking to anybody. And I realized, we're in Germany. Most of these people at this dinner are German. They don't speak English. So I had a little bit of liquid courage in me, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go talk to him. So I went over and asked him if I could sit at the table. And he's like, oh, you speak English? Yeah, yeah, come sit, like. And we ended up spending the entire night hanging out, having dinner, having drinks, and just talking and having a good time. And I got lucky that I was one of the only people there that spoke really good English. So um, I ended up getting to hang out with him. So then my wife wasn't with me at the time, and I called her on my cell phone, and I had him talk to her, and so she answers the phone and she says hello, and he says hello, and she says, who is this? And he says, I'm Boba Fett. Who's this? And it was just like the funniest thing. And so now, my wife tells the story of the time that she talked to Boba Fett on the phone. It was just like this really cool moment. I also had dinner with Ray Park, who played Darth Maul. One time, actually here in Boston. It was another similar situation. I had volunteered for something, and he was, I don't remember, he was one of the guests, I guess. Him and Jeremy Bullock, who played the original Boba Fett in the Empire Strikes Back. But I didn't really get to like meet them and talk with them. It was like a busy restaurant, and they were kind of like sitting over across the thing. Astral Megazord, hey, welcome to the stream. So I'm I'm using primarily at the moment. I'm using Citadel paints. However, the emblem here in his chest, that color is a P3 color. It's let's see, what did I say? It's Eldritch. That's the color that I'm using for the center. Everything else right now is Citadel. I do have a couple of Vallejo paints nearby in case I need them. This paint that I'm using currently, the gold, is Retributor Armor. And I'm just getting this belt right here. Nope, I didn't do Zenithal at all. What I did was I primed him with Gray Seer, and then we did a bunch of contrast paints. So we did a red contrast paint for the cape and a black contrast paint for the armor, and then we've been highlighting with that. You can Zenithal highlight, especially when you're doing contrast, so it looks really good. But not necessary for the level of detail that we're trying to get with here. Thank you. Yeah, he's kind of coming together pretty nice. These are the main gold areas that you need to get. This belt thing here, the shoulders and the horns, and then again the top, there's some gold trim. The hard part, the hard gold areas to get is going to be this sword right here. So you're going to want to make sure that you don't have a lot of paint on your paintbrush. You're going to want to turn your paintbrush sideways, and you're just going to like scrape it against the details. So this detail right here on the sword, I'm going to try not to get the shadow of the light, but it's probably going to happen anyway. And you're just lightly scraping over top of that. Same thing up here. And up here. And so now that's what the front of the sword looks like. Now we're going to do the same with the back. The key to this method that I'm doing here, just this edge highlighting, is just to make sure that you don't have a lot of paint on your paintbrush. It's not so much like a dry brush. You do want a little more paint than that, but not much. Sorry, this is going to be tough for you guys to see, but all right. So there's your gold bits. You know, one thing that we haven't really looked at is his gun here. Let's see if I can find a picture of his blaster. Literally every picture I look at is just like of his sword. I guess he's like really known for his sword. So his blaster is mostly black with a gold trim to it, looks like. Yeah. So for that, just to keep it simple, we can do the same thing, right? So we just get the gold on our brush. And actually, that's not even his gun, is it? That's his the holster to his sword. That's the sword holder. So just do a little edge brushing here. Nothing too crazy. We don't need it to. You're not gonna really see it, especially from the top. We do need to get some black back on his visor. Right here in his visor. So I've got, let's see, what black do I have here? I've got model color black from Vallejo. You can use any black that you prefer. I'm just, for some reason, a big fan of Vallejo's darker colors. Came out really thick though, so just be careful. You don't want a ton of paint on your paintbrush. You just want to be as gentle as you can be. Because we want to keep that silver trim. And if we screw up, we can just go back to the silver. It's not a big deal. Looks cool. Just wait for it to dry for a second. Make sure we didn't miss any spots. It's tough to do with a bigger brush. I'm using a number 1. I should definitely be using something smaller for this, but... I do seal my figures, so the question is, do I seal my figures and with what? I seal all of my models with the same thing, and that is Tester's Dull Coat. It comes in a small-ish can, and you can find it in any hobby store, arts and crafts store, basically anywhere that they sell, model cars and stuff. They're gonna have Tester's paint, and it comes in a little can, but it lasts me forever. And I mean, those cans last a really long time. They don't chip. They really are, in my opinion, the absolute best product for sealing your models. Matte. So Dull Coat is a matte color. The only time that it's kind of not great is when you have gold, because it does flatten the gold a little bit. There is a solution for that, and that is Ard Coat, which I will show you as soon as I can find it. So Ard Coat is a technical paint from Citadel, and you can put it on either before or after. I recommend putting it on before. So you could put it on, like, for example, we could put it on all this gold here. Then we could throw the Dull Coat over top of it, and it would keep that shine that's there now. But me, I don't really like my stuff shiny or satin, so I stay away from gloss and satin stuff. Purity Seal from Citadel is just way too shiny for me. I'm going to use Vallejo's German Gray real quick, and this is going to be to fix, if you will, some of the spots that don't look so great from the contrast paint. So, like, up here near the between the armor and the cape, there's some red. So I'm just going to cover it. You can see there that the color between that contrast paint and this is very, very similar. So it really is a really great way to cover up any mistakes that you made with the contrast paint. So you can't even tell the difference. Of course, anytime I am here to answer questions. We're all learning. Even me, I've been painting. I pretty much haven't missed a week of painting at least something once a week for about 5-ish years now. And I still learn constantly. One thing that I've been researching this past week, actually, when it comes to painting is how best to mix your paints. Because right now I just shake up my paint bottle by hand, and people are telling me not to do that. So I've been trying to research how to shake up and stir paint pots without, doing it by hand. So even after all this time, I'm still learning stuff. So this step that I'm doing right now is totally voluntary, and I could sit here and do this literally all day, just redoing some of the armor bits to look a little more uniform. Do you have any advice for making sure your clear coat doesn't bubble? So there's a couple things that you can do. One is you want to make sure that your paint is very dry before you do your clear coat. So my recommendation is to wait overnight. Let the model sit overnight once you're done painting. You also want to make sure that the paints that you're using are name brand paints. I can't guarantee if you use cheaper like acrylic paints from like a craft store that you won't get bubbling. But if you use like a Citadel or an Army Painter or a Vallejo, you shouldn't get the bubbling. Also, you want to make sure that you, gosh, what was I going to say? You want to make sure that you're thinning your paints, that they're not thick. If you thin your paints and you put them on in thin layers, you also shouldn't get the bubbling. And also make sure, like, if you're going to go with, like, the dull coat or purity seal or a spray can lacquer, that you shake the can really, really well. Make sure that you store it in a dry, cool place that's not humid and hot. You want to make sure that when you're actually putting the varnish on the model that you're doing it in a climate that is not too humid. So if you live in a humid area, do it first thing in the morning or late in the evening when the weather isn't too humid, or wait until your season changes. I know that can be tough sometimes, but like here right now in the summertime, it's really, really humid. It has been humid for weeks. So I'm not doing any sealing until the humidity level goes down, because I don't want to have to worry about bubbling. So if you implement some or all of those tips that I just said, you shouldn't have any issue, especially if you're using, like I said, name brand paints and you're using a name brand sealer like Purity Seal or the Tester's Dull Coat. Some people don't like the Testers. They don't like their stuff dulling. Some people don't varnish their stuff at all. Professional painters, like pro painters who you see like entering contests and stuff, they don't varnish their models, because it will, no matter what varnish you use, it's going to affect the temperature, the brightness, and everything of the color that you put on there. So they don't do that. If you do get some bubbling, is it easy as doing a little wet sanding and recoat? Well, if you wet sand over your painting, you're probably going to scuff your painting. But if you don't mind like repainting, then you could just strip the paint completely and start again. I think that's a little easier than wet sanding and trying to get your varnish off, saving your paint job. And I think if you're unhappy with what the lacquer has done to your paint job, you're much better off just stripping the paint and starting again. I've done that many, many a times. Not necessarily because of bubbling, but literally the last touch up of a model, and I accidentally spilled a wash all over the model. Had to strip the whole model. So right now I'm just going over some of those black. I'm not going over all of the black. I'm just going over some of it that I want to make a little more uniform, because there was some splotchiness And I'm using, what am I using? I just said it. German Gray, Vallejo. And that's the Magna Defender, huh? I did not think that we were gonna finish this guy on stream. I thought I was gonna have to break this up into a two-parter, but once we got going, we just he just flew by. So one more time for the new folks who just joined the stream late. We painted the Magna Defender today instead of our friend Namor, who we were going to paint because my dog decided that he wanted to eat Namor. So moment of silence, RIP for, or Ninjor, not Namor. Sorry, I got Marvel on the brain. Ninjor, poor Ninjor, he, RIP, has decided to go to the other side. What are your brush preferences? Great question. So, for shading, I use the GW's shade brushes. For dry brushing, I just use whatever I can find. And for your everyday, basically this entire model, I used one brush, and it was the Winsor Newton Series 7 number 1. I usually keep a number 1 and a number 0 on me at all times and in good condition. These are the ones that I take care of the most because they are a little expensive. But I have been having problems recently with the number 0, so I've been relying on the number 1. And so far, it has held up very well. So, excuse me, shout out to this brush. This is the savior brush at the moment, this number 1. So I'm taking very good care of it because it's like the only one I got right now. Earlier in the stream, I went through like all of these and I was like, oh no, these are terrible. Cleaning and conditioning. Let's see if I've got my cleaner down here. It might be upstairs. If you go on Amazon and you type in brush cleaner, there's like a little jar. It looks like a balm almost. And you open the jar and it's white, and you just get it a little wet, and you can like imagine that this is the jar. You just get a little bit on the brush like this and clean it off like that, and it'll keep the tips really nice for you. Just go on Amazon and type in brush cleaner. If I remember next week, I will bring I keep it upstairs where the sink is because that's where I clean my brushes, so I don't have it down here to show you the exact brand. But anyway, that's unfortunately my time. I have to call it quits to the end of the stream here. We managed to get Magna Defender all done. He's looking really, really good. And again, this was just mostly 2 contrast paints. You know, we used the Citadel Blood Angels Red and the Citadel Contrast Black Templar. That's most of the colors that we used here. And then we just highlighted with some other stuff. And he's looking great. Definitely ready for the table. Anyway, you guys have been great. Thanks for watching. If you are unfamiliar with me, my name is Daddy Louie. I am found everywhere. YouTube.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Circle of Nerds, one word. Definitely go and check that out. I have lots of guides and stuff to painting. Big shout out again to Renegade for having me on stream again. I don't know what we're going to paint next week because poor Ninjor, he's all kinds of messed up. So RIP Ninjor. And anyway, as always, remember, play your games, be good to everybody, and I'll see you next week.